Today we're going to look at how to create this paint bottle in Blender. First of all, we'll look at how you would approach this kind of model. Basic tools like Extrude and proportional editing. We'll make a thread for the cap using the screw modifier. And finally, we'll give the bottle some basic materials and a short animation. So we'll start by pressing 1 on the numpad to come to the front view, and we're going to add in some reference. So to come to images and reference, I'm going to use this bottom logo. Okay, then we've got our reference image. So this is inspired by some recent client work, but I do also have a bottle right here as well. That makes it really helpful. Obviously I can see all the details with it, right here in front of me. So I'd always recommend that. So start off by adding in a circle. I'm going to make that circle just 16 vertices for now. So to create that circle right here in the middle. I'm going to move that up a little bit. If I just zoom in here, I think I need to move my reference to make sure it's absolutely in the middle, because you can just see the circles going over there. So let's just click on my reference image and let's just move it ever so slightly. Okay, so it's about equal either side there. I'm also going to hit the only access align, so what that means is every time I come out then a front view it will disappear, which I think is quite helpful. I can see what I'm doing better. Right, okay, so let's go back to the circle and go into edit mode now. So let's just scale that so it's the right size. Okay, and I'm going to come to top view. Okay, so first mistake there is when I scaled that I'd only selected the front vertices, so I'm just going to undo that. I'm going to go back into front view. I'm going to turn on transparency here. So now when I select that, it'll select all of the vertices at the back as well. Let's just redo that. Let's scale that in a little bit. Okay. Alright, and that's better. Now you can see I've selected all the vertices. Okay, so this bottle's got kind of don't know if you can see that, it's kind of a weird shape. It sort of tapers right in at the sides. So we're going to recreate that here. So first thing I'm going to do is scale on the Y, just to flatten our circle a little bit. And then I'm manually going to change the shape. So let's just select these vertices, again scale on the Y, pull them right in. Now the next set of vertices on each side, you might as well do both at the same time. You could obviously use a mirror modifier or something to do this, but this is just as quick for this purpose. Okay, we get this sort of slightly rounded, but to a point on each side. Okay, so I'm going to select the two middle ones and come back to front view. So we want to create this kind of curve now. So I'm going to use proportional editing. So proportional editing, if you've not used it before, when you press grab or scale or whatever you want to do, this circle will come up, and that's the circle of influence. If I move those vertices up, you can see that it's influencing those vertices around it as well. So it's not just the ones that you've got selected, which is quite helpful to creating nice smooth shapes. So I do want to go up in the Z, but I want to make that a bit bigger actually, because I want to kind of create this sort of shape, and I'm trying to go right along that line there. So that looks about right. Okay, cool. So I'm going to switch that back off, and if I come out of that view, now we've got this sort of shape. Okay, excellent, so that's a good start. Now I'm going to create a second circle, and that will also be created with 16 vertices because it copies what I did before. I'm going to move that up here into position, and it's going to be kind of the starting of this neck, so I'm just going to scale that down, and that neck is kind of perfectly round. Okay, that looks like it's about right. So now if I come above, you can sort of see that circle is now far too big. So that tells us that this one needs to be wider. So I'm just going to scale that up on the Y until it's just a little bit bigger than that. And there we have our shape. So that will be our shape. Okay, so what I am now going to do is I'm also going to, by holding down Shift and Alt, I'm going to select this ring as well, and I'm going to go to Edge, and I'm going to bridge edge loops. And because we have the same number of vertices on both circles, it does a really nice job of connecting those up for us. Okay, so we've already got the shoulder of our ball here. So I think what I will just do is I'm just going to scale this up on the Z just to kind of get a slightly better shape there, and then move that up a little bit, but we can do some of this in a moment. So I'm just tweaking it here just to kind of get a better shape. You'll have to do a lot of this as you go on, but we are going to add a subdivision surface a little bit later, and that will help with the shape, and we can add some edge loops and things like that to control the shape a little bit better. So now I've selected this bottom ring here, so I'll just show you that. I'll go back into front view, I'm going to extrude that down on the Z. We're going to create kind of the rest of the bottle now. So I'm just going to come down a little bit, and then I'm going to scale on the Z just to start flattening that out. I'm going to do the same again, come down just a little bit, holding Z. Now I'm going to press scale, Z and 0, and that will make that perfectly flat. So let's just complete. Extrude down, say to about here. Extrude down again on the Z, and it just starts to taper just a little bit. So I'm going to scale that in just a touch. Okay, now we have the bottom. Extrude Z. Again, we're tapering a little bit more here. I'm going to move that up actually, because the taper starts a little higher up, so it's about there. Extrude down on the Z, taper in a fair bit more, hold down shift if you need to get more accurate, and then a final right down to the bottom, and then we're going to scale that kind of right in. Okay, brilliant. So if I just quickly go into solid view, you can see now we've got kind of the starts of our bottle. So let's quickly work on the bottom here. So we've got that ring, that loop already selected, so I'm just going to press F for face, and that gives us a face that fills that particular gap, but it isn't n-gon right now, so I'm going to do a little bit of work to it. So first of all, I'm going to press I to inset, just to give us a little bit of a kind of an edge here. But what I want to do, if you look on the bottle, it kind of indents on the underside, so I'm going to add some geometry so I'm able to do that. So I'm going to press Ctrl and 7, that gets me kind of to this view, the underside view. So if I just click that vertice and then hold down shift and hit that vertice, if I press J, you kind of can't see that particularly well because of the line there, but that's created an edge. If I do it here and here, press J, create another edge, keep doing it. So I'm holding down shift so I can hold down both vertices together, and then just press J. You'll notice I've not done these end ones, and that's because we've got a quad here, so 1, 2, 3, 4. If I was to do that, I would be introducing triangles on the end, which we don't really want. Okay, so now that we have that, okay, I'm going to select the faces here. So I'm going to select that face. Let's come around. Okay, I'm just holding down shift to select the faces that we didn't get. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I want to again use proportional editing, but I only want it to affect the influence of these faces. So if I press Shift H, everything but that selection then will be hidden. So now I can just edit this part of the mesh. Okay, so I'm going to come into side view. Let's go into X-ray mode, although we probably don't need to. And now I've got that middle vertice selected. I've gone back into proportional editing. I need to make it a little bit smaller for this. Make sure I constrain it to the Z, and you can see now I'm just getting this nice indentation here. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Okay, it kind of goes up, and if I press Alt H, the rest of the mesh will reappear, and you can see now that we've got our nice little indentation on the bottom of the bottle. Right, okay, so let's start working on the neck here. So I've just selected this ring on the top, and again we're going to hit E to extrude up in the Z just to cover that bump there. Let's go into X-ray mode so I can kind of see it, and I will scale that down just a touch. Might need to turn proportional editing off. Okay, I'm going to hit E to extrude again, but I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to scale it in just so it's about the width of the neck going upwards. Okay, about there. Now press E and Z, and we can kind of come up. So I'm going to come up to about here. Okay, so what I can see on my bottle here is on the neck, on the underside, there's kind of like this little lip here, which I don't think you can really see, but I'll show you how to do that. So I'm going to hit Control R to create an edge loop. I'm going to put it about here, and then I'm going to hit Control B to bevel it. I'm going to roll my mouse wheel up once so I get a nice loop in the middle there, and that's about the width I want to go for. Okay, so now I've got that selected. If I go into Face and Extrude along normals, ooh, okay, and I just need to hit Shift because I only want to come out just a little bit, just like that. Okay, right, I think now to see really what this looks like, we need to add a Subdivision Surface Modifier, and then we'll get a better idea of its shape. So let's add in that modifier. So just go into the Add Modifiers, Generate, Subdivision Surface, and hit that onto 2. I'm also going to Shade Smooth. Okay, so we start to see the shape of our bottle here. Okay, it's pretty good, not too bad. But we do need to make some modifications. So we need some controlling loops in. So let's create one right here. So just create a loop and pull it down just to tighten that up a little bit. I think we also need one just on the inside here. So get one there and just scale that in, just like that, to about there. Okay, excellent. So I want to kind of make this a little bit more rounded. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to Control R and create a loop in the middle. Just leave it where it is. Let's scale that up just a little bit. I'm going to take this loop, I'm going to scale that down just a little bit, and I think I'm actually going to pull it up a little bit as well. So that creates more of a rounded look there. I think I'm also going to grab this loop at the bottom and just scale that into. Okay, so let's just see how that looks. I mean, that hopefully looks a little bit better. Yeah, that's more kind of what we've got on the neck of our bottle right here. Okay, back into edit mode. Okay, I'm going back into front view, and for this one, I also want to tighten up around the bottom. So stick one there, stick one there on the top, and then let's grab that middle. And if we just scale that out just the tiniest little bit, we get this nice. I don't know what you would call that, just like a little bump going right round. Okay, so just looking at my bottle here as well, this needs to be sharpened. You could do that with an edge loop, but in this case, I'm actually just going to hit Alt and select the whole loop. I'm then going to hit Shift E for edge crease and use 0.9. So that's kind of like a 90% crease on that particular line. That gives us a sharp edge there without needing to add in any additional geometry, and that looks kind of okay. Just checking on the bottom, quite happy with the way that looks, nice and smooth. Right, okay, so we've got the basics of our bottle. It doesn't look too bad. Okay, I want to now show you how to create kind of the screw thread here. And then we'll create the cap as well. So, to create the screw thread, we're going to use the screw modifier. So the first thing I am just going to do is I'm going to come back inside view. I'm going to take this loop right here. I'm just going to not grab it, but extrude it up along the Z to about here where I think it would end. Okay. Alright, so let's come out of that. And what we need to do now is create a new shape. So I'm going to create a plane. That plane comes down the bottom here, so just move it up to more or less where you think that the thread will start. Okay, and let's go into edit mode, make sure you're in vertices select, and with all these vertices are selected currently. So if I just hit M and collapse, that puts all the vertices together and we end up with just a single vertex right there in the middle. So if I press G now and move that along the X, you can see, if you look really, really closely, I've got just a single vertex right here, okay? So what we're going to do with that single vertex, I'm going to press E to extrude up on the Z to create another vertex. E to extrude, we're going to kind of come out of this diagonal shape. E to extrude up on the Z, and then E to extrude back to where we started. You kind of end up with this shape, so you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vertices. If I just zoom out, I think that may need to be a little bit bigger, because we've zoomed right in, everything's really small. So what I will do is, I think, let's move this down a little bit, make that a little bigger. Let's grab these two and move those up on the, out on the X. Maybe we can move this up on the Z, and if I grab these again, if I move those up on the Z, we get kind of the right shape that we're after. Okay, again, if we zoom out, okay, that looks a little better. So now we need to add in the screw modifier. So if you go to generate, go to screw. Okay, well, we want 16 because if you remember, our circle that we started with has 16 vertices. So if we do this with 16 vertices, we're going to be able to link it back later on much easier. Okay, so what I am going to do now is going to go into solid view. So you can kind of see what you get here, but what I'm going to just do is I'm going to turn the bottle off for now, which is still called circle right now. So let's just turn that off. Okay, so I'm going to want 2 iterations of this, and I'm just now going to, holding down shift, I'm going to drag this until we start seeing kind of the screw thread. There we go. Okay, so if you've done that correctly, you should end up with something that looks a little bit like that. Okay, so back into front view. This is the time to kind of make any changes to your original shape here. So if you change that, that will affect the whole. You see that affects everything here. So I'm just going to make that a little bit older by making that a bit bigger. Right, okay, so we are going to then, once we're happy with it, we go into object mode and then we'll apply the modifier there. So that now creates that as actual geometry. So if I go into edit mode now, this is geometry. Okay, and we can work with this geometry. Alright, so just check, it's possibly a little high. So once we've done it, I'll move it down a little bit, but I think this is going to look just fine. Okay, so first of all, let's do some merging. So what we need to do is we need to merge all of these points together. So I'm just selecting the first vertex here to the one below. I'm just going to merge, and we'll merge at last because I like the position of the bottom here, and it'll just move the vertices down. So we just repeat that. If you hold down shift and press R, it'll repeat the last thing you did in Blender. Just do that all around. I should hopefully make this a little bit quicker. This is a little bit tedious, but it's just the kind of thing that you need to do from time to time in Blender. All worth it in the end. Okay, just keep going all the way around. Being careful not to select incorrect vertices. Okay, and we're nearly there. Right. Okay, so now we've done that, we want to select this edge. We want to come all the way around until we get to the top. Okay, so once we've done that, we can extrude and up on Z. We just go slightly beyond scale Z0. And that plans that out for us. I'm just going to bring that down a little bit, and then I'm just going to extrude again to create another loop right here. So now we've got this face. Okay, and what we can do with this face is if we inset and then press B with bound select, it kind of gives us this shape, which is perfect for us to connect this up. So I'm just going to get that into more or less the right position. Okay, let's just scale that now down on the Z. Okay, and let's inset again. Okay, that's about right, that'll do for now at least. Okay, I'm just going to pull this out. It's more or less the right place. Okay, and we can start to connect those vertices up now. So let's, okay, I've just done that a little bit close actually. Let's just move that out. I prefer to have it like that, so then I can, when I'm selecting my vertices, I can see them. So merge, again, I'll merge it last. Okay, we'll go, kind of go see-through for this, so when I select, it'll select both vertices there. So I'll merge those at center because they're in the right position already. Okay, and do I have any more that I need to merge? What about this one? Did I merge this one? Nope. Okay, so let's grab that there, pop it there, merge. Let's just merge those at center. And this one, I think I've already done that one. Yes, okay. Alright, so we've now got that all merged together, so it's a chance to just move some of this geometry like to just taper that a little bit. Same with this, just move it in. Maybe I could pull that this way a bit as well. Okay, so it's just a case of fiddling around really until it looks okay. You want to keep it as smooth as possible. Right, so now we need to do the bottom part too. So for this we need to actually start by deleting some faces. So we start from here and just come around. And again we go all the way around until we reach here. Delete faces. Okay, and now we're going to repeat the process we did before. Okay, so edge select, let's just select this bottom edge all the way around until we reach here. So I'm just pressing Control there, by the way. When you click, it'll use the shortest path to that particular edge. Alright, so I'm going to press E to extrude, Z downwards, scale, Z 0. Let's move that back up. And then extrude another loop. Okay, so using exactly the same as we did before. Going to insert. Remember that I want to use the bounding, whatever they call it. So just scaling that, grabbing it, making sure it's the right sort of size, and then doing another one for the inner part. Okay, now we can just scale underneath it. Let's press G to grab and let's move that up into the position that we're happy with. And let's start merging some vertices again. So I think first of all we'll merge this one. We'll merge that at center. Let's merge at last because I prefer the position of that vertice. So let's do the same again, merge at last. Let's make sure that these are all merged. Merge the center. So just be careful when you're in invisible view. It's very easy to select vertices behind. But in this case, we seem to be pretty good. Okay, so that's all merged together. So I'm going to move, again, I'm going to move this down a little bit just to taper that a little bit. And I think this needs to go into. Okay, just check it from all angles. It's easy to just kind of move it into the wrong position from the wrong angle. So I'm just going to move that down. And there we have it. So we have our screw thread. Okay, so what we'll just do, because I know this is a usual problem, we'll go to face orientation, and you can see it's red right now. We want that to be blue. So that's telling us that our normals are facing the wrong way. So in fact, I'll leave that on just to check that it works. But if I select everything by pressing A, go to mesh, normals, recalculate outside. So excellent, now they're all blue on the outside, which is exactly what we need. Okay, so to test this, we'll quickly put a subdivision surface on it with 2, and hopefully if we've done a good job, that works nicely. If you see any shading problems or anything like that, it probably means you haven't merged a vertice together or your normals aren't correct, that kind of thing. Right, let's connect it to our bottle. So I'm going to do back into the bottle here. I'm going to, let's take this whole loop of faces and just delete them. Okay, so you can see now we've got where we're going to connect. I'll just move that down to make it easier to see. Okay, before we do the connection, we just need to make sure this is the right size. It looks just a touch small to me, so I'm just going to scale it, pressing down shift again so I get that precision, and that looks now to be about the right size. So I've got the screw selected. I'm going to press shift, select the bottle, I'm going to hit Control J in object mode, and that's now joined those two objects together to be one object. Okay, so what I can do is I can Alt select that ring, press shift, Alt and select this ring as well, and then I can go into edge, bridge edge loops. Okay, and that's connected that together, and we can just see how that looks. Look at that, lovely. Okay, so I think the thread's a little high actually, so what I'm going to do is I think we can remove, let's just delete and we'll dissolve the edge, and that just removes the edge without affecting the overall shape. We'll do the same perhaps with, no, let's do it with this one, delete, dissolve edge. I'm going to go into sort of see-through mode to make sure I'm selecting everything. I'm going to hit G, I'm just going to move that down, okay? And what I will do is I'll select that top ring and just move that up. Now if I go into object mode and go into solid mode, that's more in the position I would want that thread to be. Okay, excellent. So if this was a clear bottle, you would need to now model the inside of the bottle as well. So there's a couple of ways you could do that. You could use the Solidify modifier, and that just adds thickness. So it uses the vertices you've already got and it kind of puts it on the inside or on the outside. We'll use the Solidify modifier actually in a moment to create the label. Or you could duplicate this mesh and scale it down yourself and then kind of connect it using bridge and edge loops, that kind of thing. But we don't need to do that today. This is a solid bottle color, so we will just, we don't need the inside, but maybe in a future tutorial we can take a little look at that. So what I am just going to do, just to finish this off, is let's just give this top a bit of thickness. So I'm going to press E to extrude and then escape, scale, and go inside to about the right kind of depth. E to extrude, Z, and come down, bring that down. So we do need some edge loops now, although it's given us quite a nice smooth top there, but I will just sharpen that top up a little bit, and on the inside, let's bring that up, not all the way, there we go. I think that looks pretty nice. Alright, so the only thing really left for us to do is to put the lid on. So again, we'll do this as a new object, so maybe it's a good time to name this. Let's name it bottle. Okay, I'm going to shift a mesh, and again we will start with a circle. Let's bring that circle up into position, about here. Okay, and we'll scale that down to about the right size. We should have done that in edit mode really, but it's okay, not to worry. Let's just scale that down to about the right size there. We can press E to extrude, Z, and just extrude it right up. Okay, to about there. Let's add in some, we'll add in some edge loops here because there's a slight taper on the bottom there. Let's just scale that up. Maybe we scale that down just a little bit. Okay, so I can see on the bottle I have here, the cap is quite sharp at the top, so we'll leave that kind of as is. But what we will do is I'll just press F to fill that face in, and I'm going to use a slightly different technique than what I used on the bottom. So I'm just going to insert a few times just to give me some geometry here. Okay, until we get down to quite a small circle at the end there. So I'm going to hit Control and plus just to select those rings going all the way to the top. And again, like we did before, I'm going to press Shift H. And that just hides the other geometry. That's what we're going to do. I'm going to select the middle point in there And what we're going to do is we're going to use proportional editing again just to get this little kind of hump on the top. So we need to move that down somewhat. Let's just move that up a little bit, maybe a little bit bigger there. Yeah, we'll go a little bit bigger. There we go, just very subtle. Okay, just come back into the object mode for a sec so you can see that there. Okay, Alt H to bring the rest of the geometry back, and there we go. Okay, so we need to shape that smooth, and it needs a subdivision as well. So let's go to generate, subdivision, put that onto 2, right, and there we go, we've got the basis of our lid here, so it needs sharpen up a little bit. So I'm going to add in an edge loop right up to about here, nice and tight. I think we're okay on top, I think we're okay on the bottom as well. Let's just give it some thickness, so select that bottom, E to extrude again, escape, and then scale in. Oh no, I can't do that, so we've got proportion editing. So let's just see if we still got the, no we haven't, so I press Ctrl Z to cancel the operation, so extrude, escape, scale, there we go, go inwards to about the thickness that you want. Alright, let's just go into sort of side view here so we can see it going up. I'm going to extrude up, we can go all the way, kind of all the way to about here. Okay, we clearly need some, tell you what, let's not do it as support and loops, just for the sake of variety. So I'm going to select that loop, I'm going to select the inside loop, and let's go Shift E 0.9. And that gives us a quite sharp, but not totally sharp edge, because I use 0.9 instead of 1, so that gives us kind of what we need there. So I think I'd like to pull that lid down ever so slightly, so I'm just going to do that. Okay, and there we have it. We have our lid, or our cap, we'll call it cap. Okay, so I want to create a label for the front. So let's just quickly do that. So I'm going to go into bottle, go into edit. I want it label to basically just be where these faces are. Just like the faces that you want. I think that'll do. Shift D to duplicate. Press enter and then press P. And what P will do is it'll give you the option to separate by selection. Okay, and that will give you, that'll separate that geometry into a separate object. We'll call it label. Okay, and at the moment it's a little bit horrible, so we've got to do some work to it. So it's got that subdivision surface on it, which is fine. But what we want to do is we want to solidify it, so this will give it a little bit of thickness. Okay, so you can kind of see it's coming out there, so let's just, if I mess with that, so there you go. If I mess with the offset, you can see how thick. I don't want it to be super thick, just a little bit. Okay, it's going to help here if I select the outer edges of the label. Okay, Shift E again to use edge crease and just press 1. That kind of straightens it all out. And the other thing I want to do is shade auto smooth as opposed to smooth. So what smooth does is always tries to smooth every vertex, but auto smooth uses an angle, and in this case it's using 30 degrees. So in other words, it's smoothing all the bit over the middle here, but where it's at a 90-degree angle, it won't try and smooth that out, so you get a much better. It gives us our sharp edges as we need. So it's a little bit too thick right now, so I'm going to pull that down a little bit. So again, holding shift, so we get some precision until we get to where we're happy. Okay, that looks about right. Okay, so I think now we're ready to add some materials. So first of all, let's start with the bottle. Let's open a new editor window and go to shader editor. So we need to give it a new material, call it new. Let's just call it bottle. So it's going to be a very basic material. So we should have, there we go, we've got a principal shader here. So I'm going to use this red as opposed to the blue in the reference, but we'll go red. It's kind of a nice deep red, and maybe make it a little bit darker. So to see that, let's turn that on. That looks okay. So it's actually quite shiny as well. So I am going to turn the roughness down to 0.2. Gives us a nice sort of shiny bottle. And I think that's all kind of I want to do with that for now. So the label, we need a UV editor for the label, because obviously I'm going to put a real label on this right now. So if we, let's go into the label, into edit mode, select it all and press U to unwrap. Let's turn this into a UV editor. So there are our UVs right now. Okay, so let's create a new material, and we'll just call that material label. I want to use an image texture, so come down to texture, find image texture, open up your file that you want to use for your label. Okay, I'm going to pop that into the base color. So as you can see, it doesn't work right away. We need to edit the UV mapping here. Okay, so I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger so you can see it, but basically I just want this to follow this. So I'm going to put this into the middle. Let's get that in the middle there, and then just scale it up on the X so it covers the whole of the label. I think we're going to scale it a little bit down on the Y because we're getting some of that white at the bottom, which we don't want. Grab it on the Y until we get it more or less in the correct position. Okay, that looks alright. So we've got a label on there. Okay, and for the cap, let's click on the cap. We can close this UV. In fact, we are going to use it for the cap, so let's just make it a little bit smaller just for now. For the cap material, so once again, I think we want it to be white. It's a little bit of an off-white right now. I'm just going to turn that up a little bit. Let's turn the roughness down. It's quite shiny, not quite as shiny. And we want to create those kind of little ridges going around the edge. So the way we're going to do that, just go quickly into edit mode. I'm going to hit down on face mode, Alt, and select those faces right here. In fact, I'm not going to do that. I need to add some seams first. So I'm selecting this loop and this loop at the top. Okay, go to edge, mark a seam, and then I'm going to go to the back, find an edge that you're not going to see as much of, and again, I'm going to go mark seam. Okay, so now we're going to select that loop as I did before, hit U, unwrap, and it should unwrap for us quite neatly because it's a very simple shape. Okay, so what that's going to allow us to do is we're going to create a copy of the cap, make it its own by pressing that button right there. We'll call it cap, I don't know, indents. I'm going to assign it to the geometry we've got selected, and then what we're going to do is we've got to use a wave texture. Okay, so right now I think it's using generated geometry, but I want it to use the UV. So go to New Wrangler, add texture, setup, and let's select the UV. Okay, so right now it's going the wrong way. We want it in the Y direction. Okay, so you can see right now that the texture isn't going all the way up. So the way we get around that is if I select that edge loop and this edge loop here, if I say Shift E and 1, that gives it an edge crease, and that will, then the texture will go all the way to the top. Okay, so I'm going to scale. Let's go 50. Looks about right, doesn't it? That'll do. Okay. And I think we then need to put that into a bump mode. That goes into the height goes into the normal. And if we now look at that, okay, let's see how does that look. So we go into object mode, it doesn't look super great right now, so let's just turn that right down to 0.1, seems a little bit small. I think we need to add a colour ramp in, so just tighten that up a little bit. So Shift A, converter, colour ramp, just add that in. If we start to squash these values towards each other, we should get a better result, right? You can see straight away that looks much nicer. Yeah. Pop that up. We need to invert it. I think invert looks better as well. Maybe we can go a little higher. Okay, excellent. I think that looks quite nice. Okay, so we've got our indents on the top, and I think we're just about ready to create our short animation. Okay, so let's get rid of our reference now. Okay, so first of all, let's set up the camera. So I'm going to press 0 on the numpad, that'll take me into camera view, and if I just go to view and camera to view, that gives me the ability to move the camera around into where I want it. But first of all, actually, for the camera, I do want to up the focal length a little bit. Okay, so that just zooms us in, but it just changes the perspective a little bit too. So I'm going to zoom back out. Just get it so it's kind of right in the middle. Maybe there. Okay, but just come out camera to view, make that camera view a little bit bigger so you can see it. Okay, so we've got our kind of camera position. I am just going to keyframe the camera position just in case I move it by accident. So I'm going to come into the transform area and just press I over location and rotation. That means now if I was to move it by accident, as soon as I kind of move the playback here, it'll snap me right back to where I was. Okay, so we'll come out of camera view now. And I want to create an empty, because that's going to control. Let's create it as a cube, just make it a little bit bigger. Okay, I'm going to select the cap, select the bottle, select the label, and then finally select the empty at the end. Control P, to parent, object. So now, if I move the empty, it moves the whole object. So let's go back into camera view. Okay, so we just want 100 frames. And let's go here. Okay, so I'm going to just rotate the empty on the Y just a little bit, so it's kind of on an angle here like that. I'm going to keyframe that on frame 1. I'm going to come forward to 101. I'm going to set Z as 360, so the one full revolution. And you can see now, if I was to play that back, we get a nice revolving animation. And it should loop nicely because it's 100 frames, it goes right back to where it started. I want to add in a slight whip to the revolution, so I'll show you how to do that. So let's just open another window here. Okay, go to the graph editor. You can see we've already got all these kind of lines here. If I hit normalize, it makes it a little bit easier to see. So this Z represents the rotation of the Z axis. You can see it sort of starts off slow, gets a little faster, and then tapers off, and that's just the standard Bezier curve interpretation. And that's good, we kind of want that, but I want to exaggerate it a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock all the rotations except for the Z, because I don't want to affect anything else. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to click this handle here, press grab, move that this way a little bit. I'm going to take the one at the top, I'm going to grab and move that this way a little bit. So now if we play that back, let's just close that off. If I play that back now, we get a little bit of a whip effect in the middle. And there we have it, we're ready to render. If you found this tutorial helpful, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, see you on the next one. Bye.